Okay, so we've got like 16 minutes to go. I just want to make sure. Can someone let me know if you can hear the audio? Does it sound okay? Or does it sound muffled? Does it sound weird? Let me know, someone, whoever's online, if you can hear this okay. That would be awesome. Dun dun dun! 6 minutes. I'm turning on the microphone now. Mic is on. Hopefully you guys can hear me. We've got 6 minutes to go. I'm standing far away, testing audio, test. Mic check. Isn't that what they do in bands? Mic check. Mic check. I hope you guys are doing awesome. We've got 5 minutes and 50 seconds to go. I'm going to keep this mic on, start getting my room cleaned a little bit. Get this out of the way. Got to hide all the bodies. There we go. I'm going to put this... can you guys hear me okay, by the way? Send me a message, let me know if you can hear this. Last time I did a live stream, it was like no audio. I'm talking, and people just see my lips moving, but nothing was coming through. So let me know if you hear this audio. Sweet. We've got 4 minutes. Rock. So, in case you guys are wondering, in about 4.5 minutes, I'm going to start with a newbies lesson. This is going to be for absolute newbies. I think I want to I've been thinking about doing this for a while, a live stream, like a regular live stream where I kind of capture different things, always starting with brand new people that just want to get introduced. So the first 30 minutes is going to be a little bit slower for some of you guys that are pretty advanced. After that, we're going to do some digitals. I'm going to show you some cool combos that I've been recently discovering that I think is pretty cool. And then we're going to do bounces, because when I watch people do hyper, I realize I haven't really taught people how to do turning bounces. So today we're going to work on being able to do hyper style with turns. And you'll realize just how easy it is to be able to do 90 and 180 degree turns. You're going to love it. And then I'm going to go with Q&A. I'm going to be answering questions throughout this whole time, but Q&A is really where I'd like you guys to focus mostly on it. And then after that, we're going to announce the winner of the LED nunchuck. It's going to be sweet. Where'd that thing go? Two minutes. Are you ready? I'm not ready. Where'd my water bottle go? right. You guys got your chucks out too, right? I think we're going to do a little bit of a follow along, at least for a little bit. So if you have your chucks, got to keep it away from the monitor, obviously. We're going to get some jamming in a little bit. Very cool. Well, that'd just be messed up if I shut the live stream off right now. No, just kidding. Now I'm just like staring at the clock here. 18, 17. Like, should I just switch over and say hello, or should I actually wait until the last second? It's kind of like Christmas, right? You want your presents early. Whoosh! Welcome to Flow-Trix. It is Ken. I've got two mics set up, so don't worry, this is the bad mic. We're going to do most of our recording from over here. Look how beautiful it looks. I don't know if you guys have seen, but I have a brand new lighting setup, so everything looks a lot cleaner. Ta-da! Everything should look a lot cleaner. I've got some lights coming in from both directions, so I won't have these huge shadows. And it also just helps, plus I got these awesome drapes. Right now, if I was to do a recording without those drapes, I would look like a shadow. It would just suck out all the light. You know how that goes. But yeah, welcome to Flow-Trix. I'm going to move over here for a second. I'm going to talk about what we're going to be working on. So, from 6 to 6:30, which is now, we're going to start working on some beginner, absolute beginners. If you're new to nunchucks and you're tuning in, I want to give you something that you can start with. Plus, you can ask questions. More advanced people, you can ask questions too, but I'm not going to cover like reverse illusion rules in the first 30 minutes. The next, after that, well, I'm just going to show you again here. Right after that, we're going to do digit rolls from 6:30 to 6:50. So digit rolls from 6:30 to 6:50, which is finger rolls. And then after that, we're going to work on some bounces, some moving bounces. I'm going to show you how to do turns with bounces. It's going to be pretty sweet. And 7:15 plus is where I can answer all your other questions that don't fit into these categories. And then lastly, we are going to announce, dun dun dun, winner chicken dinner. I have my box of stuff as I click on the wrong thing. Technology. I have my box. This is super gay. What's even more super about it is all these little names here. One of them is going to win Flow-Toys LED Nunchuck. Professional LED Nunchucks. They're awesome. You're going to love it. So to start, I'm going to just kind of I need to set one more thing up just so I can see what you guys are typing here. So give me 1 minute here. You can stare at a wall. Just stare at the wall. All right, getting the chucks. Good, good, good. All right, let's connect here. Let's make sure. So essentially, hey, is this working? No, this is not working. Give me a second here. Facebook. I've got the top is. Wait, what is the top? The top is, oh, okay, the top is YouTube. This is brand new to me. I'm streaming to YouTube as well as streaming to Facebook simultaneously. So please bear with me. I'm just trying to get so I can read what both people are saying, as well as streaming to, go here now, go right there. Boom, okay. So top is going to be YouTube, bottom is going to be Facebook. That's awesome. Boom. All right. So let's get started. Here we go. Welcome to Flow-Trix. Very, very basic demo. So you might be wondering, when you get chucks, how do you start? Where do you go with nunchucks? And if you start watching my videos, I think one of the big issues is, and you can definitely see this because on the Flow-Trix website, I started categorizing all my videos. I have 350 different posts about nunchucks. 350. So being able to figure out where to start, I think, is very vital. Because once you figure out the core concepts, you can pretty much go wherever you want. That's the beauty about nunchucks. Now, Flow-Trix is kind of a style. Like I like the performance and ninja style, where you can learn nunchucks and be able to take it on the show, like to be able to do shows with it. So I kind of like the more fluid, big, fast, sharp motions that that can be used well for gigs. There's also a technical, more fluid kind of organic morphing type of nunchuck style too that others can teach. It's huge. The nunchuck world is huge, and I'm just really glad to be a part of it. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, so pretty excited about that. Okay, I'm done gloating now. I'm gonna just double check, make sure. Good. So we're gonna just start with the absolute basics again. And when you first start out, I'm using Dark Monk's nunchucks. Nudge, nudge, Dark Monk, you're awesome. Anyone that uses Dark Monk nunchucks knows how awesome these are. What I like about them is they're cushioned on the side, they have a weight at the end, which kind of mimic fire nunchucks. And I've always, like before the Dark Monk nunchucks, I always thought fire nunchucks were just like the most awesome because the weight at the end, you can really feel the motion as you're swinging them across. When you first get a pair of nunchucks, in my opinion, whether it's wood or graphite or foam, the first thing you want to do is figure out where the center of balance is. So I almost always stick out two fingers and find out where that center of balance is. It's kind of like figuring out where the center of a staff is or anything else. Where you know where the center of balance is on any type of prop, that's going to be where the least amount of effort is to do what you need to do. I'll give an example here. Whoosh. All right. I don't know if you've ever done this, or even if you had a weight. If I were to grab a staff, the absolute lightest it will be is in the very, very center. So the farther out that I grab, the more weight that's gonna be on the end. For instance, if I put a 5-pound weight here and a 5-pound weight here, so if these were two 5-pound weights, it's gonna be the absolute lightest in the center because it's balanced as it's spinning. But the further back I grab, the heavier that this side gets. It's gonna be the same for the chucks. So when you're looking for speed, what you're looking for is the point where the balance is absolutely the most centered. And that's usually where the balance point is where you can hold two fingers and find it, grab it. That's going to be where most of your moves lie. Now, in the future, if you plan on throwing it, sometimes sliding below the balance point will keep it from wobbling and then keep it nice and straight. Whereas going above the balance point really helps when you're just trying to bend or fold or even isolate, which is a little more advanced. We're not going to get into that too much. So to first start, we are just going to grab the chuck like this. This is called a front grip. If I stuck my thumb out, it should be touching the rope. So this is a front grip. So go ahead and grab your chucks, front grip. Two front grips. Bruce Lee, right? One front grip. And if I were to turn it around and stick my thumb out, and if it does not touch the rope, if it goes across the same side of the chuck, this is a back grip. I know, this is really simple and basic, right? But understanding the fundamentals between the front grip and the back grip, between both hands, is essential. So just go ahead and play with having two front grips, having one front grip and one back grip, having two back grips, because that's going to be the fundamentals of spinning a nunchuck. I'm going to check comments really quick here. Am I going too fast for y'all? All right. Let's see. Hello, everyone. All right. So when you're first starting with nunchucks, I think starting with the moves that martial artists often use is a great start. Now, I often like when you first pick up chucks, the best thing to do is to feel how it just moves as you're swinging it. What you're going to find is as long as you hold on to the balance point and you're making your swings, you should feel kind of a connection until you reach the end. And then you're going to want to figure out, well, how do I bounce this across my body? So even if I swing it across here, most people injure themselves because they don't take into consideration most of the force of the chuck is at the end. So whenever you swing a nunchuck, even if I was just to bounce it from my top shoulder down to the lower left of my hip, what I want to do is aim this part of the chuck, so kind of right around the balance point. Whenever it bounces off anything, bounce meaning the chuck actually hits part of my body. The farther away, and you can test this out, the farther away your hand is from the center of balance, the more damage it'll do. Just like if I were to swing this at my hand, it would hurt a lot less than if I grabbed lower and I swung it across. So if I grabbed in the middle of the balance, it doesn't have as much power as if I swung low. And it's going to be kind of the same thing with the chuck. So essentially, as you start, the number one thing that I really want people to get down is safety. So you're going to just practice kind of swinging it from the upper right part of from your shoulder down to your hip and back up, down to your hip and back up. Super, super simple. But this cannot be stressed enough because if you injure yourself, then you can't practice. Some people think that using heavy chucks is good. I tend to think that once you become more advanced, it's a good thing. We're not spinning weapons here. What we're trying to teach is basically an aesthetic. It's kind of an art form. Anyways, I could go on and on about that. Let's go ahead and slash. So we're in the upper right side. So if my right hand is grabbing it, it's on the upper right side of my shoulder. If my left, it's going to be in the upper left. Okay, just do everything backwards. Essentially, we're going to slash down diagonally, and we're just going to see if we can get this part to touch our hip, like so. Once it touches our hip, we're going to slide it across our body like this. Now, there's different ways that you can create force. But to start with, you're just going to use your hand. As you get better, you're gonna actually kind of use your hip twists to create more force. So this is also, as much as this is a fundamental, I've seen some even advanced people that kind of stand still when they do the chucks, but you can actually create more force just by being able to connect the center of your force and the center of your, I'm saying force a lot. I just like loaded up on coffee, so I'm just enjoying myself too much. So what I like for people that are used to doing this, well, this is a very simple bounce, but what I want to see people that are already feeling this is see if you can give it a little bit of a twist here, and up. So half of your motion is in your hand, and the other half is in your hip twist. So here, just first see if you can, basically I'm facing this direction, and I'm slashing down. Now this is not for absolute beginners, that's once you get this motion down. For everyone else, you're slashing down at your hip, you're coming across, and it's bouncing over to the other side of your waist. Keep in mind, every time it's touching, you're aiming for this side to bounce off a part of you. You're never, ever, ever hitting yourself here. If you hit here, start over and try again. Here, across, then up. Boom, boom, boom. I like this move because it's later on. If you can do both of them, it's up for doubles. But it's also very simple. It looks really simple at first. And then if you're already used to it, just see if you can create more force and more power by twisting your hips. Twist, twist, up. Twist, twist, up. And just look at the presence difference it makes. Again, like a lot of nunchucks, because it's a smaller prop, requires more body motion. So if I weren't to move, this is a lot less showy than boom. All right, I'm going to check comments really quick, and then we're going to keep going forward here. You can tell the difference of the force if it ends when you hit your elbow with woodchucks. Yup, totally. All right, we're gonna go back, do a little bit more martial arts moves. So this is, gosh, an L strike. Some people call them triangle strikes. It doesn't get much simpler than that. We're not really even spinning it in a circle. We're just slashing down like this. Another move that's really important, we're gonna go to the basics again, is a figure eight. Figure eight is another way that we can swing. So basically what I'm showing you is there's straight lines. Like nunchucks can go in straight lines like this, where if this were a paintbrush, the tip of this would create a slash, slash, slash. It actually looks like a triangle, right? And then there's also circles. Circles is kind of, in terms of performing, circles is usually what we go with. So the figure eight is probably one of the most standard or basic moves that you want to get into. So I'm holding in my right hand, I'm spinning it counterclockwise like so. This creates what looks like a circle. So if I were to have a light at the end and I spun it, you would notice that this creates a circle. I'm not going to get into planes too much because that would be the whole half hour, but basically what happens with the figure eight is you create two circles. I'm going to stand to the side and face the wall, and basically what I'm going to do is once we hit 12 o'clock, I'm going to slash down across to the other side of my body. So here, once it hits 12, I'm going to slash down to the other side of my body, and I'm going to create a circle on the other side of my body. I'm going to stand over here to kind of show you how it looks over here. 12 o'clock, slash down, and it creates another circle. So if I'm standing over here, as the chuck is spinning, once it hits 12 o'clock, so the open chuck is up at 12, we're going to slash down to 6 o'clock to the other side, and we're going to basically keep the rotation going. Like so. Once it hits 12 o'clock on the top of here, it's going to slash back to the front. So all in all, we're basically taking two circles. There's two circles. There's one here, and every time it's at 12 o'clock, it connects down to 6 o'clock on the other side, goes up to 12 o'clock, connects down to 6. Goes up to 12, connects down to 6. And that's the essentials of figure eight. I'm just thinking in my head, wow. It's really funny because once you get like far in nunchucks, keep practicing, just keep spinning these around right now. once you get the fundamentals of nunchucks, it's really funny because when you don't teach it very often, because it's at such a level, it's actually a little challenging to get through with it. Okay. So now we have slashes, and then we have figure eights. Go ahead and just work both of those for a little while if you're just beginning. I want you to just keep practicing here. And then the moment your hand is up by your shoulder, you're going to turn to the left and you're going to slash down into your figure eights. So you kind of have two motions you can work with now. We have this L strike or triangle bounce. The moment we get it up by the shoulder, look to the left of you, and then you're going to slash down and you're going to create the circles over here. And then the moment it's down by your right hip, you can turn back up and pull it up by your shoulder and you're back to the L strikes. So we just created a nice little transition point. And this is something that I think is good for everyone to kind of think about. With transition points with chucks, you can learn 500 moves with nunchucks. But if you don't know the very specific points at which they connect and the direction that they're going, it's really hard to create combos, especially on the fly combos. So you will often get stuck doing the same moves. So it's very good, even if you're advanced, to just stop for a second and think what moves or what direction the chucks are going, and if you can play connected dots in a slightly different way. Whenever you're trying to build combos, especially when you're more advanced, I always think like a really good strategy is to do a pass of some kind. So like if I'm doing a pass, I know we're running a little bit more advanced here, but when I'm doing a pass and when I do a catch, I can change the direction to something else because I have a moment to think about it. Think about chucks as they move so fast. It's like a motorcycle. Sometimes you really get stuck in the same types of patterns. And even as a beginner, that's something for you to think about as well. As you can see, this move and this move are connected. And all we're doing is we're finding the points at which they connect or intersect. If you were to look at these lines, you would see how they would intersect. And then that would be your transition point into going into the other way, basically. Now, as a beginner class, I usually don't want to get into the nitty-gritty stuff like wrist rolls right away, but what I will show you is kind of a smorgasbord of a few things. And then if you can get these, go ahead and just go on the YouTube channel and look up Awesome Nunchucks for Beginners. I have a whole hour-and-a-half class. This is only 30 minutes, so I'm kind of just giving you a little taste. So the next move, which is going to work on now, we're going to go into a little bit more digit manipulation, a little bit of string manipulation. So we've worked on straight lines, and we worked on circles. Now let's go ahead and work on the string. Another thing that you may or may not realize is that the string itself can be manipulated. So we're just going to work on a very simple moon wave. I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to be in two front grips. So my right hand's doing a front grip, and my left hand's doing a front grip. The most awesome thing about this is it's a really simple move, and a lot of people, especially when they're first learning, it just looks fantastic and it's really easy to do. So push your chuck out in front of you like Bruce Lee, right? Now what's going to happen is if I'm standing over to the side, you're going to notice one hand is slightly in front of the other. That's because these chucks need to cross, and if they weren't in front of each other, they would crash into each other like so. So I'm going to stand up here, and I'm basically going to push one hand in front. I'm taking my right, and it's pushing just a little bit forward, like this. This creates a clearance. Now I'm going to drop my hand just a little bit, and the reason why I'm dropping my hand is just so I can create some space as I lift up. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my hands. Now my thumbs should be kind of right at the edge of the rope. If I don't have enough slack, they're not going to cross over though. So make sure that you have enough slack to where they can cross. So here, right hand pushes forward slightly. I open my hands and they should cross just a little bit. Once that happens, all I have to do is lift my hand, and it's going to, basically what you're going to see is the other side is going to move right into my open palms. That's exactly where you want to be, because then all you have to do is close your hands, like that. And then to go back to where you were, because your thumbs are tied up, you just open your hands and they'll reverse right back. So here there's not enough space to grab it, so we lift up just a little bit and lift up. So this is called a moon wave. So we have triangle strikes or L strikes, figure eight, moon wave. Go ahead and try the moon wave a few times while I check it out and see. Okay, you can tell the difference between Oh yeah. 16 years of martial arts, and I just learned a moonwave a month ago. Yeah, no, I mean, that's totally understandable. It's 16 years of martial arts, that is awesome. I only did 13 years of martial arts. But the moonwave is really not combat effective, so it's understandable why that this wouldn't be. I mean, that would be really funny though if you're like, hey man, it's like a blind your eye. I mean, it kind of looks like if I was to really shoot it forward, it looks like it would. It'd be pretty cool visually. I just the power is just not there. Let's see what I'm going to see if there's anything else. Okay, so far so good. So we've got about 10 more minutes, and then we're going to start going into some fancier stuff here. So we have the moonwave, we have the L strike, or the triangle strike, and then we have the figure eight. Now, I know I said I would do martial arts training, and then I just taught a moonwave. I get that. I just think that was a really easy one to learn. The next part, though, is definitely a martial arts move, and you're basically going to hold the chuck in your right hand, and you're going to hold it down by your right hip, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to swing it up. We're going to swing it up towards our shoulder. You're going to let your thumb almost touch the top of your shoulder, and the chuck is going to go behind you. Now, there's a trick to this, which is your elbow commands a lot of this space. So if you swing it straight up, you're going to actually have a little bit of a harder time. When you're first learning this, pull your elbow outside like this. So if I was standing sideways, if my elbow is facing forward, you have less space than if you open it up and point it over towards the side. So open your elbow up, not completely out, obviously, and then lower your grip a little bit so you're below the center of balance. This is going to create more space. And what we're going to do is it's just a basic over-the-shoulder pass. We're going to lift up our hand, and our left hand is just going to reach underneath our armpit. Keep your hand there, and you're just going to basically lift your hand up and see if you can get it to tap your open hand. Tap. Good times. Once it taps it, you're going to grab it. So once you feel the tap, see if you can get it to grab. Boom. Boom. And this becomes an over-the-shoulder catch. Okay, so once we get this catch, there's two ways we can do it. The martial arts way would probably swing up to the shoulder up here, and we would try to do the same exact motion over here. But I'm going to show you more of a flowy way. Instead of going straight up into the other side, what we're going to do is we're going to just swing it over across to the other side of our hip over here. So once you do the over-the-shoulder pass here, you're going to swing it over your hip, and you're going to let it bounce off your butt. From there, you're going to swing it straight up, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to hold your elbow out, and you can lower your grip if you want. You just kind of open your hand very quickly and see if you can get your right hand under. Let it tap your open palm, and then grab it. So across, over. And what you notice is you can do this forever. Basically, the moment the hand that grabs underneath goes across to the other side of the hip and up. Across to the other side of the hip and up. Across and up. Now, most martial artists will go straight up diagonally to the other side like this. That's fine too. What we're trying to do, though, is create more circles. Eventually what's going to happen is, if you get used to tapping your hip and going up, you can eventually tap farther away from your hip. You're gonna hold it and you're gonna let it rotate one away from the hip, and that's gonna actually create you're gonna create two circles. You're gonna have one that's going across horizontally and one that's going across upwards. So it's here, and what's gonna happen is, so you're gonna miss your hip this time, and then as you pull it up, it's gonna go straight up. You're kind of plane bending. To me, that looks a little bit better than this when you have blow chucks or fire chucks, especially from the side, as opposed to this. And then, if you're comfortable with that, you can also add extra spins. So what will happen is, as I go across, as I start going upwards, just go ahead and let it spin a couple times before you catch it. So across, you create a circle here, and then a couple spins up before you catch it. Right? Super cool. Now here's the thing. We can tie all this together. So if my right hand goes up here, I don't always have to catch it with my left hand, and you can go straight into your triangle bounce. And the moment it's up here, you can go ahead and grab it again and go back to here. So see if you can get your over-the-shoulder passes again. But this time when you go over to the top, grab it but then let it go, slash down to your triangle bounce, and then go back. Here, let go, slash down at the hip, hip, up. Boom, right? Super simple combo. Why? Because the transition point between this here is the exact same as this here. This is a very basic idea of it, but this carries on for the rest of your career, the rest of your life in nunchucks. When you start looking at the points where you pass your chuck or where it's moving, you'll start finding different combinations. So if you, in some ways it's like, I know some people that do chucks want to learn as many techniques as possible, but sometimes it's more about figuring out how to take the techniques that you already know and getting them to connect in as many ways as possible. Because eventually you run out of techniques. I mean, you could always keep making more, but then you want to make them speak. And if you can make them speak louder and louder and make them more presentable, create great big presentations, you actually, a lot of times you don't need to learn that new move. You just need to accentuate what you already got. Kind of like the dude that learns the kick. You know, the first time he throws the kick, it looks a little wobbly, but when he does it 10,000 times and he learns how to do 10,000 variations of that same little kick, all of a sudden he's like expressing himself, even all that more. I'm gonna check here really quick, make sure. All right. So, again, when we're up here, we have the hip bounce here. And then, of course, we also have the extra rotations that you can create. Now, this doesn't look as good. If I'm doing the extra rotations here, it doesn't look as good because my circles are happening from the side plane. But if I was to go over here, you would see the circles have more of a dramatic effect. So the way that you face, and that's called planes, and I don't really want to get into it too much because that's a whole topic that would take 30 minutes to get on its own. But wherever the circle is generally where you want to go. So anytime you're creating a circle, so if I'm doing a figure eight, I'm creating two circles here, I would want to turn my body so the audience can see the circles. Especially when you have fire or glow chucks, because both of those are going to leave trails that follow. So if I was over here, it still looks nice, it just doesn't have the same effect, especially with glow, because they're just going to see lines that go up and down like this. Whereas here, there's this whole pattern that it can follow. So always keep that in mind. The way that you face will also make a big difference. Just like if I did a moonwave to the side, this doesn't look as impressive as if I got up and did it. Oops, a little too close. If I got up and just like so, I created this distance for sagittal, and then I got in the right plane so you can see the whole thing, and you can also see the half circle right here, as opposed to if I wasn't thinking about how far you were, and I just kind of did it off to the side. It's a lot different. It's a lot different in its presentation as well. So, okay. I think we're just about done with the basics of nunchucks. There's so much about the basics of nunchucks. I have a 1.5 hour class on it. So go to YouTube, look up Awesome Nunchucks for Beginners. Does anyone have any questions about anything that I've talked about? I'm just gonna kind of keep this open right now before we move over to the next subject. So if anyone has any questions about nunchucks or the basics, go ahead and ask now, or forever hold your peace. Also, just want to say again, thank you everyone, especially the Patreon donors. We're about to announce the winner of the Flow Toys LED Nunchuck. Without Patreon, this wouldn't have been possible. I don't know if you guys know this, but I almost had to give up most of Flowtricks and go to a full-time job because I just couldn't make ends meet enough. But got enough gigs now, and thanks to Patreon donations, I was able to stay in the game, and now I'm in it to win it. I'm just trying to go for the gold, man. All I want to do is spend my life teaching and helping others and making them like the most awesome, badass ninjas they can possibly be. So I'm really glad that I stuck with it, because it would have been really easy to throw in the towel a couple months ago. It was really tough, but did get through it, so I'm really happy about that. I'm going to go ahead and read some questions, and if there are no questions, then we'll go to the next part. Let me just see here. Okay. Oh, how do you do the prayer drop? We'll work on the prayer drop. I'm going to kind of do that one late. What time is that at? Hold on. I'm going to follow this for a second. So Q&A will be at 7:15, because we're going to start working into digits, and then we're going to do into bounces at 6:50. So 7:15, remind me then, and we'll get that prayer drop. Right now we're just, oh wow, did it just, Dude, it totally kicked out the... Gosh, give me just a second, you guys. It totally like didn't save the chat, and now I don't see anything. Uno momento. I just need to reload the chat. For some reason, it just like totally kicked me out of the chat. So give me a moment here, and I'll be right back. Oh, that's crazy. I actually have to relog into YouTube as well as Facebook. It totally kicked me out. Not just kind of kicked me out, like all the way. Okay, YouTube should be back up. Let's go ahead and get Facebook back up now. Kind of kicked me out, like all the way. Okay, there we go. Come on, Facebook. Okay. Yeah, there must be a glitch going on because it shouldn't happen when I exit the screen that it would do that. So with the prayer drop, we're going to do that around 7:15 with the Q&A questions, just because we're going to go into some digit rolls, and then after that we're going to go into some hyper style. And to answer the question, yeah, to win the LED nunchuck, you do have to be a donor. It just supports Floetrix, and it's also kind of how I can help inspire people to not only just pick up chucks or to help keep Floetrix going, because Floetrix almost went down, but also just so totally lost my train of thought. So let's go into digit rolls. But yeah, you do have to be a donor in order to get the LED nunchuck. It is valued at $200 though, so it is a pretty fancy, nice chuck. So with digit rolls, everyone has different, everyone's at different levels with digit rolls. So I'm just gonna fly off and just show you some of the stuff I've been working on and try to teach you this. Something I've been working on that I think is really cool is a rewind that turns into a finger roll going into a reverse thumb roll. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this move because I just learned it and I think it's pretty fantastic. I was also thinking about rewinds. A rewind is basically when you do a roll, like a finger roll, and then you stick your other finger up, which causes the nunchuck to eventually get stuck. I can't believe it. It's so much easier for me to teach the harder stuff than it is to go back to the basics. Is that not crazy? I was just like, this feels like home now. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the chuck, we're going to slash it down by the hip, and watch what happens to my finger. I'm taking my pointer finger and I'm sneaking it over to the other side. So slash it down, take your pointer finger and sneak it over to the other side. You should be able to hold up two fingers. It should be on both sides, right? So here, slash it down. Now what's going to happen is, as I slash outward, my pointer finger is going to go up and the chuck is going to go in reverse direction. You may not be used to this because most pointer finger rolls come from the same side of the hand and you just stick it up straight, which is kind of why I wanted to show you this. In this way, I'm slashing down at my hip and then my pointer finger goes straight up as it comes back that direction. So here, slash down, my pointer finger goes up here, and then as it unwinds, it's going to roll that direction. Just see if you can get that to start with. Get it to roll. Go ahead and get it to roll. I'm trying to go through this slowly here. Get it to roll in reverse direction, and then once you reach the end, just kind of hold out your hand and grab it. So here, catch, catch. Pretty cool, right? So a lot of finger rolls start from the same side, and then you stick your finger up and it wraps around. This one is a little bit more challenging, so we're kind of going into the harder part. We're slashing down, finger rolls over to the other side, and then it kind of goes in reverse. But this will set you up for the next move. I'm going to see if there's any questions here. Cool. This sets up for the next part of this combo. So once we do the roll here, we're going to grab it, or we're going to do the rewind. So right before your finger reaches the end, your middle finger is going to stick up and they're going to kind of clamp together. And what that's going to cause is something called a rewind. First, it'll just stay still. So once you feel it hit the end, you're going to twist the opposite direction. So it's coming up, and right as soon as you about hit the end, your middle finger goes up, it clamps the rope in between. You wait for it to tighten, and then you twist your hand the opposite direction. So here, here, tighten, and undo it. Again, here, tighten, and the moment you hit this part, it's almost like an S catch. The moment it's completely wrapped, you twist it the opposite way, and you put your middle finger back down. Put that middle finger down, and then it becomes finger roll again, but going the right direction, the direction that most people do finger rolls, which is from the same side. If you can't do these finger rolls, go ahead and just practice. Don't do the rewind, just go ahead and practice these two first. The first one is going to be the one we just did, where the pointer finger sneaks over to the other side and it rolls upwards. And then the second one happens when it bounces off the deltoid and it kind of stands in the way up here, like so, and you stick your finger straight up. So here, and you're really swinging for the chuck to return by your face. And you're not swinging it at your face, but you want to make sure that the motion is coming this direction. So when you let go, it's going to want to keep rolling. The moment you reach the end of the roll, it'll pass the middle finger. And the moment it passes the middle finger, you can stick your thumb up and grab it. So here, and grab. Should put you in a reverse grip. That's what we want, because then we're going to go into the thumb roll afterwards. So I'm giving you a really complex digit roll combo, but it's pretty sweet. So here, you're putting your finger on the other side. You're rolling it up. Right before it ends, you're sticking up your other finger so it gets stuck and you're twisting it the opposite direction. And it's going to be just like you did this finger roll here because you just changed direction. So here, whoosh, whoosh, and then you're going to grab it. And the last part is if you can get into this pencil grip, you can finish the move. If you can't get into this pencil grip from there, you won't be able to. So before you do this in a combo, first try and see if you can just go into the thumb roll straight from the same side. So I'm bouncing off the right side of my deltoid, and I'm spinning it to where the chuck is kind of going towards my face, and then I open up my pointer finger, right? And the moment it reaches the end, basically the moment it reaches the end, I'm going to kind of coil around. So my pointer finger coils here, my thumb coils to the other side. A lot of coiling today. And what's going to happen is the chuck is going to keep spinning, and all I have to do is release my finger, and now my thumb is in the way, and it's going to roll across my thumb. Crazy, right? Pointer finger, thumb. And it should actually end in a front grip. If you do it nice and slow to start, what's going to happen is once it runs out of space, it's actually just it's going to go between the space between your hand and your pointer finger, and that's where you grab it. So all together, in slow motion, here to here, there's a very subtle exchange that happens. Once you hit the end of this, my thumb replaces it, and then my pointer finger goes down. If you can do that, if you can do the other move, then you can put it all together to a reverse, to a rewind, to a, oh, I went really fast, right? So here, to a rewind, to a finger roll, switch it over into a thumb roll, and then you can grab it. So here, whoosh, here, there, there. If you feel that it's slowing down between each transition of your finger, give it a little bit of an extra sharp twist. So here, twist it here. Oh, I went too fast. So here, twist it, not so fast. Twist it again, and it'll keep it in motion. The last part to this combo, because there's actually one more part, kind of experimental, which is using your hand to move in space while you do it. It does make it a little bit more difficult, but basically, I've got two different variations that I was working on. One is we're going to do the finger roll up to the right. So my hand is moving up into the right here. The moment it reaches the end, I'm going to go this direction. So it's going from here to here. So once I hit the rewind, once I hit the rewind from up here, I'm twisting it over to the other side, and then I'm going to do the thumb roll back. Now the crazy thing about the thumb roll is you're going against a spin, so it's like an anti-spin thumb roll. So it's going to be here, twist, twist, thumb roll. This has no real nice way to end because you're twisting it kind of anti-spin, but you're also on the opposite side of your body. So usually you'll just end up doing horizontal wrist rolls afterwards, but in slow motion again, here, it's going up, it's going across, and then you're doing the anti-spin thumb roll here, and then you can take it into horizontal hand rolls. This is an advanced, I would consider this to be an advanced move, but I know some of you guys have been doing chucks for a while, so no problem, right? Here, here, roll, here. Again, so there's a lot happening with this move. I always think it's funny because sometimes when people watch nunchucks, they have no idea like all the crazy stuff that's happening because it just moves so fast, you know? All right, I'm gonna go check real quick here. Cool, good, Alex. Good, yeah, give it a shot, man. Let's see here. All right, so There are so many different kinds of finger rolls and thumb rolls that I've been working with. I think that the most important ones to me are usually the horizontal ones that are above the hand. You can also go below here. That is like 10 times harder once you go below because gravity wants to drop them. But make sure that you can get, let's go ahead and go over one of the fundamental thumb rolls here because I think it's good. Let's take it back a notch because that was a little bit challenging, a little bit tricky. So one of the first rolls I ever learned was a thumb roll, and that's basically if I'm holding it with my right hand and this is spinning counterclockwise, the moment it's around 12 o'clock, I'm going to open up my thumb. So basically I'm trying to stick my thumb out and holding it almost like I was pushing against the wall, like if I wanted to put a thumbprint into a wall. You need to clear your fingers for this to work. And also, as it's moving, you're really going to give it a sharp twist because it's going to, if we don't give it a twist, it's not going to have enough force to want to wrap around the thumb. But if you give it a nice little twist, it's going to want to wrap. It's going to keep wrapping around the thumb. The last part to that motion is figuring out when to catch it. So as we're going across, what we're waiting for is this side of the chuck, where it would be in reverse grip, to kind of reach up over between the space between your pointer finger and your thumb, and you grab it. So here, give a little twist, wait for the right moment, and catch. If you go faster, it's easier, but it is something you have to train at first, so go nice and slow. If they're chasing each other like this, it's just the release time versus force. That's perfectly okay when you first start. As long as you can grab it at the end, you're going to be fine. If you find this to be too easy, go ahead and see if you can create a point. As you do your thumb roll, go up and to the right and then down. So you're creating like an upside down V. I guarantee it's a lot harder than if you just held your hand still. So up and down. Again. And what you can do is up and down, and then you do a back to front hand roll to get back to here. And what you've just created is an anti-spin thumb roll. Ooh, yeah. We're getting into the nitty-gritty over here. A little complicated. All right, so we've got digit rolls for about the next 5 minutes, and then we're going to go into some hyper, and then we'll go into Q&A to finish it off. So is there any kind of digit motions that you guys had a question about? Thumb rolls, finger rolls, S catches, moon waves, sun waves, anything? Chain unwinders, I guess, would kind of consider a digit roll. Any questions? Okay. Just got really quiet, sorry. Went into a daze here. My girlfriend just came in. I think she's about ready to go play some video games. Why don't you say hi to everyone, Laurel? There's like 50,000 people watching right now, so don't be nervous. Yay! Are you leaving, by the way? What? Are you leaving, or are you...
I'm getting ready to leave right now.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to check one more time, see if you guys have any questions about finger rolls or thumb rolls, and then I'm going to keep going. All right. So, whenever you're doing rolls, I always find it's really fun to try to intercept the roll in the midpoint. There's a lot of interceptions that can happen, and this is not even necessarily a digit roll, but this is also a move. Whenever you're doing a roll and you're using the motion of the rope to create some sort of movement, you can also do it with your wrist. Like when we do the infinite syncopated wrist rolls, for instance, you may not realize it, but there's a point where you can actually catch it. Oh, let me see here. Where you can, now it's not working. Where you can catch it and redirect it back. So keep in mind that these are just kind of breaks, and there's probably one, I may not be able to pull this one off. There's breaks everywhere where you can stop the force of the motion by just putting something in the way, causing it to rebound. This gets a little bit more complicated, but let's go ahead and just try this one out. So I'm assuming you know the syncopated wrist roll that's horizontal, that goes from here to here. If you don't, this is a fun one to do. You're basically swinging your right hand over to your left side of your hip, and then you're rolling the rope over your wrist. The moment you feel it touch down, you're going to take your elbow and you're going to twist it out as your hand reaches. It's almost like if you've ever done the teacup thing where your teacup is sliding above and below your hand. It's kind of the same thing here. You're just going to twist it out until your hand is facing in the exact opposite 360 degrees. So it's here, here's 180, back to 360, and then this hand grabs the chuck that's facing and pulls it out. So here, here. Go ahead and practice that if you haven't done that before. If you have, if this is old hat, then what I'd like to see you do is as you get ready, once you get to the 180 mark, so once you get it towards here, take your thumb and lift it up, and this will cause the chuck to actually get stuck. And what you're trying to reach is like an S-catch formation, basically. You're trying to get it to where the rope itself gets stuck between two parts of your hand, the thumb and the side of your wrist. And when that happens, it will allow you to twist it back. You're basically causing a rebound to happen, so you can basically take it back without ever actually touching it with your hands, without doing any other kind of motion except for letting it rebound between your thumb. So here, and back. Pretty cool, right? Okay, I'm going to check here, see if anyone has any questions. Good, good, good. Okay, so we're moving on to the next part, which is, dun, dun, dun. What was the next part? I think it was hyperstyle. Yeah, okay, so we're going to work on bounces now. We're going to start working on something called hyperstyle, or bounces. Basically, what I wanted to show is, first I'm going to go over the 4 points of hyperstyle, the box that hyperstyle creates, and then all of a sudden we're going to start bouncing it in different ways. Now a lot of times when I see people do hyperstyle, I love it because it's just like, wow, you know, high speed, lots of bounces, a lot of furious motions. But there's more to it than that. Because basically right now the body is not moving. So what I want to teach you guys is kind of this motion of how to move with it a little bit more. The points are really simple. Once we start adding turns, it gets a whole lot more fun though. Hold on, I just want to make sure here. Oh, Kirito, let me know what you wanted me to do again. It says, can you do that again? Let me know what you were looking for when you ask, can you do that again, and I'll totally let you know. Let's go ahead and start with the basics of hyperstyle again. I'm going to do it very quickly though. So it goes in 4 points, okay? I'm going to spin it with my right hand. We're going counterclockwise. This is 1. 1 is going to be the opposite side of my hand. This is just a notation. So number 1 is opposite side of the hand on the top or on the outside. Number 2 is same side on the outside. So 1, 2. 3 is underneath the tricep. 4 is, I just gave it to you, remember? You should already have it.
That's not right.
1, oh, give me a second, you guys. Hey you guys, give me about 1 minute. I'll be right back in 1 minute. All right. Yes, thank you. Yes. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so we're going to go back to hyperstyle here. 1, 2. Okay. You two. 1, 2. 3 is going to be underneath the tricep. 3 and 4. So try this. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the basic hyper motion. Now obviously you don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go 2 to 3. 2 to 3 and 4. So there's different types of combos that we can create. Don't just think 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And there's so many more though. That is just the very basics of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what we're going to do is we're going to break it down. I kind of showed this a little bit on Patreon, but I didn't go through this in the depth that I have now. We're going to kind of lower the box a little bit, and we're going to go. Basically, we're going to take the box and we're going to go above the or below the hands now and legs. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is another 4 count here. It's basically, instead of this box that goes above the hands and below the hands, now it's going below the hands and to the legs. 1, 2, 3, 4. I go into this in more detail in my Patreon page, so If you're a donor, just go ahead and go to the very last video I did, and you'll totally get the extensive lowdown as to how all this works. So that's going to be box number 2. Basically, you can mix the boxes together. So I could go from here to here. Even just between these boxes alone, I have all these options that I can just bounce back and forth from without even thinking about it. I'm just thinking about bounce patterns that these can go with. The third box is all legs. So the first one's all hands. The second box is the bottom part of your hands and the outsides of your legs. And then the last box is going to be outside of the leg, inside of the leg, inside of the leg. There's really neat little tricks that you can do. And again, that's more on the Patreon page. I have all that for the donors. But what I want to show you is, first off, just go ahead and just play with those parts alone. And that should be able to give you lots of neat combos. So you can go to the inside of the leg or to the outside of the leg. And I'm just using the same points that I've been doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the points 1, 2, 3, 4 on the second part. And then the last part, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just playing with those points alone should give you a lot of different options that you can use. Here's another thing. When you go to the outside of your leg, this is okay. This is okay. But if you're a martial artist, go ahead and kick it. You know, go ahead and do like an outside crescent kick when you do it. So when I go from here to here, this is a nice motion. You know, this is a number 2 from the very top layer. And then we're going down to a number, what is that? A number 3 on the second box. Basically, you just know where the points are. But then it's like, well, we can do more. We can throw a kick. You know, kick. And you're going to find you're going to have more options just by doing it that way, just by using kicks or motions. And here's another example. If I go from here to here, this is a nice move. Kind of looks funny because I have to lift my leg. What if I took a step forward instead? All of a sudden it looks a little bit different, right? So we can do up here, we can bounce up here, take a step. And as we take a step, just kind of accentuate the leg, which will allow us to bounce it back up. And we'll pull it down to a number 3, and then we'll step in and let the next one go forward. So now what we're doing, Godzilla. Now what we're able to do is actually add movement just because we're taking advantage of the fact that this bounce pattern lifts my leg up. I don't have to stand still, because to me this looks goofy. I feel like it looks goofy, right? But if you're able to step with it and get a little bit of a stance, then it looks a little bit cooler. Or if you can even stomp it down, you know? I mean, that looks even better than this. If you're able to go, you know? And you gotta like make sound effects and stuff because it makes it more intense. Okay, so once you're able to walk with it and do this motion, you're also going to find out that there's going to be more points and there's more ways that you can play with it. I'm just going to go over this very simply. More bounce points that you may or may not know. One is going to be, you know how we did the very beginner move where I was swinging the chucks by my shoulder? You can swing it down by your crotch. Now you're not actually going towards the center of your crotch. You're actually spinning to kind of like your inner thigh like this. As it goes straight down, you should not ever rack yourself with this move. It's actually far enough to where it doesn't hit. So I'm showing you 4 points that most people don't think about or realize. If I'm going to do this 4 points, I'm actually going to stand over to the side. This is a little bit tricky of a bounce point to do, which is why I don't usually show it. Basically, it's going to be, here's number 1. Number 2 is down here towards the inner thigh. Boom, boom. Now, the third point is going to be underneath. This would be like number 3 bounce. You're used to that one. But watch this move. This drops straight down to the back. So as soon as the chuck bounces down here below the tricep, I can shoot it straight down. And what's going to happen is it's got to be a very straight shot. It's going to bounce off the bottom of the thigh. So we have down, then it's going to go tricep, top of the arm, up. Like that. What's cool about this move is, again, it can be used with a step. So as I step here, boom, I can, how did I do this? It's been a minute here, hold on. You can mix it with this step here. So that's all. Again, the bounce that you probably have never seen or rarely ever see is going to be a number 3 straight down behind you. Usually when you do number 3, we rotate it out like the letter G I usually use. This time it's shooting straight down. And this kind of just gives us more options. Another thing you can do is you can do this bounce here, bounce, cross grab, step to the opposite side, cross grab, step, cross grab. So that's another way that you can keep it going. So once you do the move, cross grab, step over with the other foot. You're going to do the exact same thing. That number 3 bounce, straight down, straight up, cross grab. Right there. So I'm doing another cross grab, but those are just some more options, and that's a nice way that you can twist your body to the side too before you go back to your standard hyper style motions. Now, the big thing that I really wanted to show with hyper style wasn't all the different bounce points, because there's many. I mean, you can do like inside bounce points, and they also have like this knee, foot bounce point. But what I really wanted to show you guys is how to move with it. Give me just a second here. What I really want to show is how to move with some of your hyperstyle motions. Almost all hyperstyle motions can be reversed and turned with, but it requires you to learn the hip reel. So if you're not used to the hip reel, basically we're creating a figure 8, like you know the figure 8 that we're working on, but we're shrinking it to our hips. You need to be able to do it both directions. This is reverse, and then this is forward. Basically, if I were to hold my hand out by my stomach, forward is going up, and reverse is going down. So every time, when we're going in forward, every time it hits about 12 o'clock, we're shooting it down behind us, and then I'm kind of holding the chuck in front of me to create the circle behind. So here to here. Creates a circle from the back, then it creates a circle from the front. This is really important because as we're doing our turns, we use the hip reels to kind of translate over to the other side. We use that as a transition point for certain moves that normally wouldn't be able to translate over. So I'm going to assume that you guys know the hip reel, and so we're going to go into it. Not all the moves require it, but I'll point it out when it does. First off, the number 3 bounce. The number 3 bounce is one of my favorite moves. Not only is it dynamic, you get your elbow out and bam, in front of people's faces, but you can also create really nice patterns of movement. So we're going to start with that one first. It requires you to do a figure 8 in order to get behind you. And now you understand where the hip reel is, because a hip reel is just a figure 8 by your hip. Sometimes we're going to have to do it low, so you're going to have to do a hip reel. So here, once you do the bounce, you're going to turn to the right and just do a figure 8. Just see if you can do that. And then the moment you slash down to your right side, you're going to give it one extra beat, and you're going to let it bounce there again. So bounce, go to a figure 8. The moment it slashes down, you're going to bounce it again over there. And in one motion, it'll look like this. Whoosh. It really helps if you stick your hand out. Plus, it just feels more balanced that way. I mean, you can just do this too, but there's definitely something missing there. Here, so what I'm doing is I'm twisting my hips this way, and I'm twisting my hips that way. If you want, you can even turn it into a clutch and just grab it here. This is just a nice ending. Once you bounce it in a number 3 bounce, I want to see you cross grab it from here. So here, number 3 bounce behind you, right? Once you do it behind you, you're going to have to do a reverse figure 8 to get it back in front of you. So number 3 bounce, you're going to do a figure 8. So it slashes down, and then you're going to do number 3 bounce here. That reverses the direction. So you're going to have to do a reverse figure 8 to get it back up to the front. So you're going to slash it up, and you should be able to do a number 3 bounce. From there, you should be able to do this bounce from the front and the back. And then you want to practice with the other hand. Same thing, front and back. You want to be able to do it from both hands. And then what we're going to do is, as soon as it goes into the front, we're just using a cross grab to translate between them. So number 3, here, cross grab. Boom, 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 cross grab. Boom, 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 cross grab. You see how that works? And everything is either a reverse figure 8 or a regular figure 8 to transition you between that move. I'm going to see if there's any questions about that. Yeah, no, that's no problem, Kirito. I'll go over the roll at 6:15 once we get past the hyper bounces. I'll totally cover that. All right, cool. Now let's go ahead and do number 3 bounce, but this time we're going to add 180-degree steps to it. It's actually a lot easier than you think because you're going to do basically the same motion where we're doing a figure 8 and we're doing the bounce, except for this time we're going to take our left foot and we're going to step 180 degrees with it. the nice thing about this is once you do the bounce again, you do the figure eight on the other side of your body, because now that you've stepped over, your body is turned. So you're still doing the same motion as this, except for this time, as we step, because everything is in reverse, we no longer have to do a reverse figure eight. It'll be a regular figure eight. And we bounce and we step again. So every time you bounce off a number 3, you're going to step. So here, step, 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 step. What's interesting about this move is every time that you take a step and you go 180 degrees, everything is in reverse. So let that sit for a second, because if I do this and I'm doing a regular figure eight, and I do a number 3 bounce behind me, it reverses the direction. So now I have to do a reverse figure eight back to get to the front, right? So I have to remember forward figure eight going one direction, reverse figure eight going the other way. If I take steps, everything is reversed. So the reverse gets reversed. Follow along with me. I know that sounds weird, but that essentially means I never have to do a reverse figure eight. I'm always doing the regular figure eight, because as I step, all of a sudden everything inverts. So the reverse figure eight becomes a regular figure eight. So I never ever have to do a reverse figure eight as long as I step 180 degrees. If that doesn't make sense, just think of it this way. If I do a figure eight here, and I turn to the other side, if you notice, I had to reverse the direction. It becomes a reverse figure eight. That also means if I take a step while I'm moving, if I take a 180 degree step while I'm moving, it basically reverses the direction of everything. So instead of having to learn forward, reverse, it just goes forward, forward figure eight, bounce, forward figure eight, bounce, forward figure eight. It's always a forward figure eight because I'm always turning with it. So it's unwinding itself as it's winding. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. If not, there's something I can explain a little bit more. I'm just going to check, see if there's any questions. Awesome. Just a second here. If anyone has any questions at all, please holler. So now what we have is, well, we have this motion here. You learn the number 3 bounce can create like this really cool 4-point pattern that we really haven't worked on before. You also learn that you can do a number 3 bounce and you can twist it behind you. And you can create this really nice pattern. And you can also do a cross grab and do the same thing. So now all of a sudden, you have this really nice combo that is not terribly difficult to do. And then the other thing you notice is if you take 180 degree steps, if you just turn one direction, you can just basically do this same move forever. So you can combine all those together and create movements. You can create movements just with that alone that will make your hyperstyle look awesome. The concept goes with every single kind of bounce too. So I'm not going to go over each one individually, but it's going to be the same thing. So if I do a number 3 bounce, what if I did a number 2 bounce? Could I do the same thing? Absolutely. So if I do a number 2 bounce, it's going to be a reverse figure eight. And then as soon as it crosses over, it's going to pull up to number 2 bounce behind me. So the motion of this is the exact same motion. Now, did you notice what happens here is I'm slashing down and doing a hip reel. This is why I said learning the hip reel is really good, because as I go down here, I'm slashing by my hip to do the figure eight and pulling back. I almost make it look like it's a different move, but it's the exact same concept as this motion here, except we're just doing a different bounce, pulling it down by the hip, doing the hip reel, pulling it up, down, hip reel to get in the front, and up. And it's the same thing. As soon as we swing down by the hip and we come up, we can do the cross grab. And then we can go ahead and just change directions. It's going to be the same thing, except for when we first hit it, we're going to have to do a number 3 bounce to reverse direction first. Cross grab, bounce. Oops. Over and over. Now there's other motions we can do too. Now I want to get into the pinwheel a little bit too, because I feel like this is a really good way that you can use motions. So as we're going over here, if I take a step 90 degrees, you'll notice, obviously I can go back and forth just like we did before. But there's also the movement of a pinwheel that we can incorporate with this motion. The pinwheel is basically where you grab the chuck and you're doing a pass behind you. Well, this works really good with this motion here, with the number 2 bounce, because it's practically going there. Remember what we said about points? This is practically the same point as this pass-off, except for we just follow it through. So now, whenever you do a number 2 bounce, and you step 180 degrees, you realize you've just stepped into a pinwheel as well. So you can step here and do this motion here, or you can step in and turn it into a pinwheel right away. Pretty cool, right? So if you're not sure how to do a pinwheel, I'm going to give just the basic lowdown of it. There's many ways you can do pinwheels. There's a lot of variations. But basically, you're going to twist. You're basically going to hold the chuck behind you, thumb pointing down this direction. Your other hand's going to grab it. So you're both in front grip. Let go. See if you can swing it down by your hip and point it upwards and then grab it. So here to here. You're going to notice it just makes a very slight circle. You're going to notice there's going to be some circles. As soon as I twist it down, you're going to see that there's a circle that's created here as I do the pass. The pinwheel is awesome because you can use this in your hyper. You can use this just about anywhere you want. Whenever you're doing a pinwheel, the nice thing is it uses hip reels to get out if it's low. Or if you bring it up to the shoulder, all of a sudden, you're into the hyper style. So as you can see, there's some really cool combos. I'm going to give you an easy combo that you can do without any turning as an example. If I do a number 3 bounce here, and I do the number 3 bounce behind me, the chuck is behind me, right? This allows me to do the pinwheel. So number 3 bounce in front, number 3 bounce in back. Remember, it's kind of a figure 8 off to the side. So boom, boom. But this time, I'm going to pull it over my head and grab it and pull it over to this side. Crazy, right? So you can actually use the number 3 bounce behind you as a method to transfer it behind your back. You don't have to do a number 3 bounce on the other side either. I mean, you could always pass it, grab, pass, turn it into a hip reel, and then bring it back up as well. So as you can see, the pinwheel is kind of like an elevator for your nunchucks. And you can drop it off at any point that your hands pass each other. This means that the pinwheel is kind of a setup with hyperstyle to allow you to pretty much get into almost any pattern or any routine that you want to take it to. It's like if I want to go to a hip reel, it's no problem. So again, here, if I need to take it to a hip reel, all I have to do is just pull it down by my hip and then do a hip reel from here. And then from there I can pull it back up. So if you think about it in those terms, you can play some serious connected dots. Just with what I've showed you, you have like a year's worth of connected dots that you can play with. Oh, Kirito, yes. The answer is yes. As soon as this live stream is done, it's going to take like an hour, hour and a half, and then it'll be on YouTube forever. So you guys, this is going to be like immortalized. So don't worry about it if you can't get it. That's also why I'm kind of teaching it, but I've taught a lot really fast. Not only can I not get feedback just because I only see, a camera, not only do I not get feedback, but I also just know that I can't see like how far you guys are getting. That's why all I can do is look and see what words you guys are typing to see how much you're getting it. But don't forget, you can pick this up. You can watch this video 6 months from now, a year from now. You can watch it every day for the next year. You can get all these moves. Just keep watching it over and over and keep practicing. Is there any other questions that you guys have so far? We're almost at Q&A, so we're almost done here. I hope you guys really enjoy this. I hope you appreciate, I just hope you guys really like what this is all about, because I've been thinking about trying to do this a little more regularly. So I had the option of either I could start teaching classes locally, or I could just start doing live streams, where I could just do these types of classes like once a week or something. I thought that would be really awesome. If you do like the idea of this, basically, if you do like the idea of this, let me know. Leave a comment. Tell me that you like this style, and then we'll try to see if we can figure something out. I personally I think I should, instead of trying to help get a living working locally here, I personally think it'd be better to stream across the world and to try to reach as many people as I can, and then just rely on Patreon as opposed to trying to rely on local classes and local dojos and trying to teach. I'd rather just do it online. That way anyone that's ready to watch it can watch it, and anyone that missed it can always replay it later. They can ask me questions. I can teach it later. So I tend to think online is kind of superior in that way. The only thing I can't do is review your work, but that can also be done if you just send me a video, and we can work all that out too. Just some thoughts I had. I was really thinking about it because I was trying to start up local classes, but I think I think I might actually want to go back into live streaming instead and just see if we can make this a regular thing. We'll have to see. Anyways, so Brian asks, how many other digit rolls are there? And I'm going to be honest, there's a gazillion digit rolls. So I don't know all the digit rolls, to be honest. I mean, you have your thumb rolls, pretty much anything that's a digit. I can't get my pinky finger to roll, but I can show you. You can go middle finger to pointer finger to thumb. I mean, that's the best I can do is a 3, middle finger to pointer finger to thumb. That's my best is a 3. And then just keep in mind, whenever you're doing middle finger to pointer finger, you can also wrap it to reverse the direction. I mean, basically, it's all about digits. I'm sure you can also switch hands if you're fast enough, or you can do all different kinds of crazy things. Essentially, though, I would say the 3 main ones is going to be these 3, your pointer, middle, and thumb. Ring finger gets a little weird because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not able to lift my ring finger without my pinky finger getting in the way. So it's kind of like an awkward thing. I try not to use these too much. I don't know. Plus, I think though, like the one that I can't get, that some people can get with digits, is they can spin it forever with one finger. Malik can do that. There's only a couple people in the world that I know that can do that. It is so cool. It's like so fantastic. I just didn't want to work on it because for me, a lot of the things that I work on is performing. And I will say this, like when I'm doing a performance, so let's say there's 3,000 people watching me, they rarely ever realize that I'm even digit rolling. I might as well just be doing hand rolls because they can't see it because they're too far. The only way I can make it known is if I stick my hand up and my finger points in the air, and even then sometimes they think I'm just doing a hand roll. Like like the audience just doesn't realize it. Now if I'm in a crowd or if I'm in a camera, I mean, if I'm recording it, I can get really close. There you can see my finger sticking up. But if you could only imagine that I'm like super far back, so imagine I'm 10 times farther than I am now, you wouldn't be able to tell if that was a finger sticking up or if it was just a regular hand roll. I mean, as nunchuckers you would, but as common audience, they really just can't see it. So a lot of the digital rolls I don't do a whole lot. I just kind of do it for my own pleasure because it doesn't really translate well into performing, except for maybe the wheel. Everyone realizes the wheel, but you can really accentuate it. And I think another thing that makes the wheel a really good thing to use for crowds is you can hold it. You can do this for a long time so they can finally, their brains can register it. I think a big performance tip, and there's a lot of tips with performing, a big one is that they really don't know what you're doing. 90% of the time, they have no clue what you're doing. So you have to go really slow, or you have to repeat it a lot so their brains can figure out, oh, he's using his fingers. I thought he was using his hands. Because they may not be able to tell the difference between this or this, and they definitely wouldn't know the difficulty difference between those two. They definitely wouldn't realize that these are 2 X catches going vertically, and you've got to make sure you clear your chest. They would just see it, hey, it's spinning vertically, you know? So it's really interesting. I have been wanting to work on digit rolls a little bit more. Okay, cool. I have been wanting to work on digit rolls a little bit more, though, just because I find them really relaxing and fun to do. It's just fun to be able to pull off a 3-finger digit roll. But there's so many different variations and kinds. I couldn't begin to tell you all of them. But I can say that your thumb roll and your pointing finger roll are going to be the most important ones. That's going to give you the most access to them. And yeah. So I am going to go into Q&A for a little bit. I'm going to give you guys about 3 minutes to think of any question that you want, and then I'm going to go over these questions, and then after that, we are going to announce the winner of the LED Nunchuck. So you got 3 minutes. So it's 7:12 right now. 7:15, I'm going to go over all the questions, and then we're going to call it a night. So what am I going to do for 3 minutes? So yeah, think of your questions that you want to ask. So I'm not going to look at the screen yet. I've got like 3 minutes, so I think I just want to talk a little bit. So what you guys probably don't realize is when I'm not spinning nunchucks or working on flow tricks at all, and I'm not performing, really the only thing I really do anymore is I raise a son. I've got a son. He is 16 years old now. He's old enough to drive. And in my spare time, when my brain is just blasted, I love video games. I absolutely love video games. It's one of my favorite things to do. It helps me unwind. I have a hard time watching movies a lot of times because my brain is so active. That's why I like nunchucks, because it's like and spinning other props. I spin about 10 different props just because like my brain is active. So like even when I'm done with this, I don't usually like watching a movie because I can't interact with it, but I love games. I just finished watching, playing a game called Life is Strange. It's pretty good. My favorite games though are like action RPGs like Neo, Diablo, Skyrim's pretty fun, but I still like those. XCOM 2 is like one of my absolute favorites. I like that deep end strategy. It's a little bit slower than like straight action. My girlfriend loves Pokken. She actually just left because she's doing Pokken tournaments, which is Tekken and Pokemon mixed together. So yeah, that's what I do in my spare time when I'm not working on Flowtrix, which is, so the way I do it is I usually work on Flowtrix till about 8 or 9 p.m. or raise my son, of course, until when it's done, you know, hang time with him. And then after that, I usually just play video games for the rest of the time because that's how I rule. That's how I chill. Yeah, that's a little bit thing about me. And also, I've got one more minute, and then I'll check all the questions. Outside of that, I did study martial arts. Some people, I've posted it was so funny. I posted this thing about how to do combat nunchucks, and I got so many people that were like, "You're a flow artist, stick to flow moves." And I was just laughing. I was like, you know, I did martial arts longer than I did flow arts. I've done flow arts about 10 years, but I've done martial arts for 13. But I think people get it in their mind. And you have to be careful about this. When you're watching YouTube, that is not the extent of a person's skill, it's what they're showcasing. And what you're actually watching may not even be that person, because the only way to get people to watch your stuff is to kind of be an accentuation of yourself. So a lot of times people come up with a lot of assumptions about people because of what they saw on YouTube or what they posted on Facebook or what they posted here or that. But the thing that you have to remember is, like, usually people are who they are when, despite all that, like when all that's all put to the side, when they don't have anything to show off, when they don't have anything to tell, that's when you're really going to find out what kind of person they are. It's going to be when they're relaxing or when they're faced with a situation that they may not want to say out loud or on camera. So I always think, like, a good judgment of character, it's always good to hold back what you think about a person unless you honestly are good friends with them and you've known them for a while. And even then, I mean, think about this. It's like, it's hard for you to even know yourself. You do stuff that surprises you even 20, 30 years later. You'll do stuff and you're like, why did I do that? And then it's like, how can we make assumptions about anyone if we don't even, like, if we're still learning about ourselves? That's just how I see it. I think it's silly when I get those YouTube messages about people trying to correct me and this or that or what kind of person I am. Usually I delete them just because I don't care. I don't want to leave it out there because I don't want to feed it at the same time. But, you know, at the same time, I just think, like, the world is a little bit better if we just try to work together, you know? Just try to work together and stop trying to judge one another. I see so much of that lately. It's like someone sees one little portion about a person or something and they create this huge elaborate assumption about it. You know, we should always try to listen before we speak. Like me, you know. Of course, I can't do that now because if I was listening now and not speaking, I'd be like, can't live stream. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to the questions now. I'm done with my ramble. Okay. Would you say to learn left hand first with some of your more advanced moves? Alex asks, would you say to learn left hand first with some of the more advanced moves? Okay. So I'm gonna give you my philosophy. I'm gonna give the normal philosophy, and I'm gonna tell you my philosophy. The normal philosophy is everything you learn with your right, do with your left. Be a mirror, so that way both sides are equal. I don't like that at all, but most people say to learn it both ways. The way I see it, if you have a stronger hand, let that hand do all the cool stuff, right? And then with your left hand, when you're going to learn something new, yeah, totally. You totally should learn other cool stuff with your left hand that's unique to your right hand. The way I've learned, or the way that I've seen it, is a lot of times when people learn the mirror image of the same move, that's what's going to happen. When the chuck goes into your left hand, and you go into automatic mode, you're going to go do exactly the mirror image of what your right hand's doing. But if your left hand learns different techniques, like what Alex was wondering, then what happens is the moment you grab it with your hand, it's gonna appear like you know a lot more moves, because what's ingrained in your muscle memory, totally different skill set here as opposed to here. Now that also limits you because you need to be able to do the reverse of some moves. Some moves are core, like figure eights, figure eight wrist rolls. You should learn with both hands. So get moves that involve turning, make both your hands be able to do it. But in my personal opinion, you will have a wider assortment of moves if you teach one hand different moves than your other. So both hands learn all the fundamentals, all the turns, all the reverses of fundamentals, and then teach your hands different tricks. And when you're in automatic mode, you're going to appear to have twice as many moves had you just mirrored it. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to default to doing the same moves with your left as with your right. True story. Okay, next question. Can I do shoulder weaves? I don't know what you mean by shoulder weaves. Are you talking about like where we're kind of weaving it through here? Or are you talking about like where it's kind of rolling through the shoulder like that? Or, this is a hard one. This one's a difficult one. Or are you talking like where it does like a full shoulder roll through the body, you know, through the shoulder all the way? A lot of that requires just holding it at the very end, hoping you have a weight at the end, and really pulling it through to the other side. It's a pretty challenging move. It's kind of like the waist strap, where you really have to like angle it just right. I don't know if that's the question you're asking, but to answer your question, that's what I can do. All right, more questions. How do you do the prayer drop? So the prayer drop is something I haven't done in a while, so I'm probably going to fail at it. But it's kind of like the moon wave, whereas if you have this resting on your shoulder, your foot kind of sticks out from behind you, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to transfer this rope onto the back of your heel. If you don't hit this part on the back of your heel, it's going to fly off. So if I drop the prayer drop and this part of the chuck hits the back of my heel, it's going to flip off, meaning the prayer drop has to be extremely precise. So the best way that I do it is I hold it here like this. I grab the edges and I stretch it and I kind of pull it straight backwards. It's just straight back. It's not far enough. You need to get it far enough to where it doesn't touch your butt. And then you lift up your foot kind of at a 90-degree angle, slightly up above, and then you drop it. And if you can do it just right, and I could have actually grabbed it if I would have moved with it. If you do it just right, you're aiming for this, just the rope, to get caught on the back of the ankle. I'm going to try it a couple times. It's been a while since I've done this move, so this is why I call it a prayer drop, is because I'm just praying that it works, to be honest. I call it a prayer drop because I'm just like, oh God, please work. Isn't that funny? So it's here, you reach back, and then it should land like right there. If it lands there, you got it. Doesn't always land there though, which is why I call it a prayer drop. I could probably work on it a little bit more and get it down a little bit, but this is one of those moves that I discovered like a mad scientist. 3 in a row. This is one of those moves that I just discovered as a mad scientist, and then I moved to the next one and I didn't really work on perfecting it. So there you go. That's how you do a prayer drop though. So again, grab, kind of slide behind, lift up your leg from behind you like so. Make sure this clears your butt, because if it falls, it can sometimes bounce off your butt. So don't be angled outward. Stand very straight. Lift your leg up, and again, try to drop it. See if you can drop down by landing the rope right on the back of your ankle, and you are all good. All right. Ryan asks, which video game is your favorite? So my favorite video game right now is Nioh. I love Nioh. It's kind of like Dark Souls, but it's like Ninja Gaiden mixed with Dark Souls. So I absolutely love it. I like games where there's a lot of loot too. This is video games, and it's really funny because I feel like spinning in video games has a lot in common. You work really hard to just level up just a little bit. The cool thing about like spinning those, your level ups are for real. Like, it's forever. But yeah, no, Nioh is absolutely an awesome game. I'm loving it. That's probably my favorite. Has Seth started spinning fire? So my son started spinning fire when he was 6. We used to do, it was really funny. We used to do a Renaissance fair when he was 6 years old. And he'd be sitting out in the crowd, and I'd spin a fire staff, and I'm like, whew, here. I'm spinning my fire staff, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting tired. Can I get an audience member to help me? And all these kids are raising their hand, and the parents are like, oh, that's so funny. And they're like, you! And you should have seen the crowd. It was hilarious. And then I gave him the fire staff, and he started spinning it, and the audience was just in shock because they thought I just gave this random kid a fire staff. It was a pretty funny skit. He's older now, but yeah, he started spinning really young. He's always been around fire. The funny thing about my son is that he's not really into fire spinning at all, really. He likes to do gigs, so he learns enough so he can come on shows with me, but he's not really passionate about the spinning. he's a teenager. He's doing, you know, especially at 16, he's doing his own teenage things. So I'm just kind of giving him space. It's open whenever he wants to learn it. But yeah, no, he's been spinning for a long time. Kirita wants to know if me and my girlfriend play other fighting games. I love it. You know, and this is I guess this is kind of the case, which is you guys have seen me for 10 years talk about nunchucks. You guys don't really know what else I do. I do a few things really, but mostly video games. We mostly play Pokken. I play a lot of Pokken. I showed her a little bit of Tekken. I think she might get into the Tekken thing. We're trying something called BlazBlue. It looks really complicated though. We just haven't gotten much farther. Right now it's been Pokken. My girlfriend just started working fighting games like 5 months ago, so she's still kind of new at it. It's cool though. Like, it's cool to even have a girlfriend that enjoys that kind of thing. So I was curious. I never seen him spin fire. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think just a second here. So yeah. No, my son used to spin fire more when he was younger. There's a part where I think we did it to bond a lot, and I think he liked to do it because it bonded us. But I think inside, like, his passion lies elsewhere. So I've never forced him to do it. Like, just like everyone, I give everyone their own space. I give my son his own space to go his own way. So I think it's going to be fantastic to see what he decides to do, because he's got the same fire that I got. Very passionate about doing something. So I'm really curious to see like where he takes it. But either way, he's got my full support whatever he decides to do. This is Super Ken. No, this is a box Laurel made for me. But inside of this is a bunch, well, you probably can't see it, but it's a bunch of little, it's a box of names, basically. And I'm going to draw the future winner of the Flotoys LED Nunchuck in a moment. I'm going to check one more time for questions. And if there's no more questions, then we're going to get to this. Otherwise, I'm going to finish up with the Q&A. Also, just curious, let me know what you guys think about this live stream. If you like it, I was thinking about doing more of it, but it just depends. Like, would you rather have this? Would you rather have Technique Tuesday? Like, what would you like to see? Because honestly, that's why I'm here. Like, I just want to like create stuff that you guys can find useful. Okay. Bro, I love BlazBlue. Okay, cool. Here we go. Shaking it up. Yeah, I haven't played enough BlazBlue yet. Shaking it up. The winner of the Flotoys 4 capsule LED Nunchuck. Oh, I grabbed one. Here we go. This is the winner. The winner is, I don't know, can you read this? Ah, my finger's in the way. I just dropped it. Okay, well, it says Kevin Sanders. Kevin Sanders is the winner of the Flotoys LED Nunchuck. Congratulations, Kevin. I'm going to message you on Patreon. You're going to give me your address, and I'm going to ship this to you, and you're going to have an awesome time with it. So, hey, thanks again, everyone. If you like this, like I was thinking again, at least once a month when I do the giveaways, I think it'd be pretty fun to have these going. I'm going to go one more time, see if there's any last final questions before I close this live stream. Again, thank you all, and congrats to Kevin Sanders. And yeah, hey, thanks again, everyone. I hope you appreciate it, or you enjoyed this live stream. And hope you guys keep spinning, send me videos. Don't forget the Flotrix website too. It's out there, flotrix.net. It's gonna be amazing. I took my website and made it 10 times better than the way it was. It's still kind of on the quiet side right now because I haven't really blasted it out there, but I'm hoping that it's gonna be like next level Facebook. So anyways, I hope you guys take care, and I will talk to you all soon.